Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Season 4 of the Boomtown Pod, your home for combat sports. Covering the latest news, information, and so much more in the world of combat sports. From boxing to mixed martial arts and professional wrestling, we've got you covered. Join Andrew Kahn, Cole Smith, and their special guests as they break down everything that you missed out on or need to know. Season 4, sponsored by FKN Beer Company. FKN, the funnest beer out there. Keeping the good times rolling one beer at a time. Grab your FKN Ale and FKN Booms, available at select liquor stores in Canada. Rest When Dead Clothing. Locally owned and operated with the very best in gym apparel. Check out restwhendead.ca or visit them in Moose Jaw at Hustle Culture Gym, 268 High Street West. Sandman Boxing System in Saskatoon, proudly representing since day one. Time now to go live for Season 4 of the Boomtown Pod, and it starts now.
What is up, everybody? Thank you for joining us live. This is the Boomtown Pod, your home for combat sports. As you can see, we are in Saskatoon. We finally got to get to... This is cool. We can do a podcast together, not like, just sitting there talking to you through a virtual screen, right? This is so exciting for us. This is a great night. We're very, very excited. Of course, it is UFC 300. We've been counting down this card for, I feel like it's been months, Cole. Super excited. Obviously, again, you guys know my co-host. This is Mr. Sandman Smith. Cole, how you doing, buddy?
Good. Always good, man. It's cool to see you in person, so... It's nice.
This is like a wild concept to us because for like the longest time we were trying to set behind the scenes, we're trying to set things up and we're like, okay, how do we visually intake this? How do we do this? Because we've never been able to do something like this with the distance. Obviously, we're trying to Saskatoon, and so now here we are. We're actually doing a live podcast. This is so much fun. This is what we envisioned basically when we started this podcast. So for those of you that are joining us, thank you so much for jumping on the stream. We appreciate you guys so much. This is a once-in-a-lifetime card. This is a generational card. Dana White and crew have really gone all out when it comes to this event, and we couldn't think of a bigger, better venue than the Canadian Brewhouse in Saskatoon. We're at the West location to come to. The management team has been amazing to us since day one. We were back here in January planning this all out. So we're fun into it. Cole, what does it feel like to actually be here now?
I mean, it feels awesome. It's like right now, I feel like it still hasn't kind of set in. It's pretty empty right now, but just from talking to everybody, shooting messages, kind of getting everybody hyped up, I think it's going to be a fun night. I'm just excited for everyone to be here, man. It's going to be good.
It's insanity. So when we first heard about this card, you always knew that it was going to be something bigger and better. And every time Dana White goes in and he tells you that it's going to be the biggest card of all time, you tend to believe him. The guy hasn't led me astray quite yet, and one of the best promoters in the game. So this is really cool for us. And again, we have so many people to thank for this because this has been a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff. So including yourself, Sandman Boxing System has been with us since day one, which has been absolutely amazing. We're going on 4 years now, 4 seasons of this podcast, and it is, without a doubt, there's so much work that goes into a podcast. I don't think people realize it. And with their help, it's been so easy to navigate, to do, and we appreciate everything you guys do for us, man. Truly, it means the world to us. Of course, we have Rest When Dead Clothing. We're going to get into them a little bit more as we go along with this podcast. Rest When Dead's been a huge addition to us. Of course, as you can see, this is actually cool because in person, you can actually see me wearing. We're not just sitting here, we're actually wearing it, so that's kind of cool. They've been, Aaron and the crew out in Moose Jaw have been sensational. I've gotten the chance to live in Moose Jaw. I've gotten the chance to meet him, spend time with Aaron and what he believes in. And that's basically, as he calls it, the skeleton crew. He's got a crew of people who just work harder than everybody else, right? His biggest mantra has always been, we will rest when we are dead. And I agree with that fully. The man is full tilt all the time. You open up a brand new gym, Hustle Culture Fitness in Moose Jaw. It's a sensational place. Of course, as you can see, attached to that gym is actually a supplement store, which is actually really, really cool. Not a lot of people do that or take that gamble because there's so many big corporations that, and he's beating pricing. He's doing insanely well against competitors, and we're insanely proud of him just for what he's been able to accomplish in such a short amount of time. Hustle Culture started right at COVID, and it was funny. The reason why they started was because he didn't want to be locked into a membership. So initially, right off the get-go, he was like, all right, I don't want to be in a membership with a gym where I can only be with 3 people. Because, let's face it, COVID was the worst time to go to the gym. Like, there was no in-betweens. It was one of the worst things. Like, I don't know if you can remember. I'm sure because you're a trainer, you could only have, like, one person. Like, what was COVID like for you when you were setting things up with social distancing and such?
I mean, it was kind of different, too, for the gym I'm at, because it's an MMA gym. Right. Jiu-jitsu, kickboxing, boxing. If you can explain to me how to do jiu-jitsu 6 feet apart, it doesn't go well. Right. So, it was a tough time definitely for everybody, and especially the one-on-one contact, which is the best part of being at a gym. Like hitting pads, being close, sparring. Right. Not being able to do that is, I'd say 75% of the clientele doesn't come, Right. You can hit a bag at home. So
yeah, realistically.
Yeah,
and I mean, the other part of with all of that was like the restrictions and all the other stuff that kind of came along with it. And I mean, Aaron has talked to me personally one-on-one. Of course, we're talking about Aaron of Wrestling Dead Clothing. He honestly said to me, "It's just like, man, I wanted to have the space to let people know that they're welcome here. Like, I understand the restrictions are in place for a reason, but I also want people to come see us. I want people to work out. Like, being trapped at home, for hours amongst hours on days. I mean, really, it was days at a time, months. He just had this great theory that he was going to make this gym, and it's come to life for him. And now they have a great new location, one of the biggest bodybuilding gyms in all of Saskatchewan. It's an incredible facility, and like I said, supplement store attached to it. CEO Fit is where you can find the supplements. CEOFit.ca. If there's anything you're after, BCAAs, pre-workout, you name it, it's pretty cool. The other cool aspect of Rest When Dead, and this has been one of my favorite things of Rest When Dead, most clothing companies, and as you can attest to, most clothing companies are really, really scared to take a shot on big names, right? Like, it's intimidating to reach out to high-level market businesses to be like, do you want to sign with us? Do you want to wear our stuff and maybe we can get you out there? But he's had great success with TNA Wrestling, which is one of the biggest brands in the world. I mean, let's face it, it's in the mega corporations of the wrestling stratosphere, right? You've got, of course, your AEWs, your WWEs, and of course TNA Wrestling. And TNA has now had 4 of their superstars join Rest When Dead Clothing, which is really cool, which leads me to this segue because I got to talk to Aaron about this, and he's given me the okay to mention it. TNA superstars are coming to Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan, folks. That doesn't happen every day, so we're super excited, and I know Aaron's super excited to welcome Cody Diener of TNA. Cody's on this tear right now with his new gimmick and everything. He's been absolutely sharp. Again, guest of the podcast as well. One of my favorites. You can check that out on YouTube. My other favorites... One of my other favorites was Jake Something. They just signed him. I don't know if anybody on the podcast has listened to Jim Fail Nation, but or watched any of their videos on YouTube. But officially, Jim Fail Nation was showing the clips of TNA with Rest When Dead and CEO Fit. So that was really cool the other day. And of course, Jeudy Threat is part of the company as well. And the TNA Digital World Champion, Crazy Steve, is also part of the Skeleton Crew. So Aaron has really gone out literally all out to make sure this is basically a company that you can't, look away from. Their products are sharp. Their logos are sharp. Everything's sharp. I mean, the shaker in front of us that you see here, Rest When Dead, sharp logo, the Skeleton Crew. Again, I'm just insanely proud of Aaron and the work that he's put in. We were hoping to have him here. When you're running a business, sometimes things go a little awry, and he will be here tonight. So if you are coming down, he'll be here at 6 p.m. That is when the prelims will start, which we'll kind of get into. We're going to talk about some odds, betting, and stuff like that, and then so much more when this card happens. It's crazy to think, Cole, how small businesses have taken off, and as you being one, how does that work for you? Like just the mindset of how you approach a small town business.
I mean, it's a lot, man. It's like overwhelming, but like you said, he has the Skeleton Crew.
Yeah.
And that's what it takes. It takes a good, solid team, and everybody's kind of all in. Everybody has their part. It's honestly the guys that think they need to do everything
Right.
that run themselves down,
Right.
and it usually doesn't work out, right? But people who can kind of build a team, build a crew, build a solid unit, everybody does their part, and it all comes together, man. Those guys soar, man. They fly. That's exactly what it takes.
And one of the things that I absolutely loved about them is that they're an independent company, right? And we're an independent podcast. We don't have the backing of the major names, right? But together with what we have and the people that we have in our corners, I'm extremely grateful for, because I feel like we're a big company. Like we have that big feeling no matter what we do, we're untouchable. Between Sandman, FKN, and Rest When Dead, we've been absolutely blessed to have the platform that we've had and be able to do what we do and talk about the stuff that we do. And it's amazing. Like I said, sometimes, you get a lot of people are like, oh, you're an independent company. How do you survive? Well, because we have the backing of a strong team. And just like what Rest When Dead has, that whole significant skeleton crew of having guys, again, like Cody Deaner, who've been in the wrestling business for 15, 20 plus years. The man's also a motivational speaker, spending time in LA last week, just doing what he loves doing. And I mean, that's the kind of team and the people that you want behind them. So shout out to Aaron and the crew at Rest When Dead for doing an amazing job. All right, so let's continue on. Man, this card is, as I've said earlier in the podcast, maybe one of the best cards I've ever seen established top to bottom. So before we bring in our next guest, we're going to talk about the early prelims. The early prelims, folks, are going to be on UFC Fight Pass. If you are at the Brewhouse, we will have them viewing here for you. So if you want to come at 4 p.m., that is when they start. I'm assuming the first fight is going to be like 4:15 after, a bunch of videos and montages and all this other stuff, and of course announcer breakdowns. The first fight of the night, ladies and gentlemen, is maybe one of, I think you could put it up there as maybe one of the best fights that you could put on like a fight night or even a co-main event of any UFC. We've got Cody Garbrandt, the former UFC bantamweight champion, taking on a very game and brand new to the division, Devison Fierro, who, of course, we've known has had some wars with Brandon Moreno. This fight is so intriguing in so many ways. I think this is the perfect fight to kick off the card as big as this, because we got two former champions that are going to be locked down. It's got my interest peaked a lot. Cody Garbrandt riding a 2-fight win streak, which has been basically resuscitated his career after losing 4 in a row after becoming the champion, right? So he's on a big momentum streak, taking on a very game Devison Fierro, like I said, making that jump up in weight class. Now, Cole, how do you see this fight kind of playing out?
I mean, the thing with Cody is it just like depends which Cody shows up. He's a very emotional dude, and lots of times he comes and fights with emotion and it doesn't work out. So I think depending on who shows up is gonna kind of sway what this fight looks like. Even though I'm rooting for Figueiredo, I like him. He's my man. So I'm on his side no matter what. I really think it just depends on what Cody shows up.
Yeah, and again, with Cody, he's such a puncher's chance fighter, right? Like, you always hear, oh, there's always a puncher's chance in this fight. This guy can do this. That right hand is maybe one of the most lethal in the UFC. So if he can get that earlier, and we've seen it against, Rafael Sunsao, where he blew that thing out of his hip and just took a Sunsao into the next generation. We haven't seen Rafael Sunsao since. So, I mean, there's that chance where he has that power, that capability to be such a big-time fighter. And I think it could potentially happen. Is he in trouble with Devison Fierro? I think so. And I think Devison's wrestling is very good. I mean, you look at the fights that he had against Brandon Moreno, when Devison was able to, get position, when he was able to get the stuff that Cody doesn't like doing, that's when Cody gets in a lot of trouble. Right. And we've seen it time and time again, even with TJ Dillashaw. I mean, when Dillashaw and Garbrandt had their rivalry, I mean, yeah, Dillashaw was maybe on steroids, maybe a little bit faster of a fighter, and he definitely got caught for it. But I mean, at the same time, you could tell that when he went down to the ground with Cody didn't like being down there. Even in the last fight Cody was in, he was down on the ground for about 2 minutes, but was able to get up. And I'll give him a lot of props because, again, that just shows you that he's a different fighter than he was before, and he's taking the proper steps to get to that next step. So, I mean, this fight is definitely intriguing, and honestly, for the 135 division, I think this could be one of those fights that, if either guy wins, it probably puts them into title contention. And I know it's only the first fight of the night, and we're already hyping it up this much, but these are the results that we're expecting with this kind of card.
Yeah, definitely. It's the first fight of the night, but it's not by any means the worst fight of the night.
Not at all.
It's like two former champions.
Yep.
First fight of the night. That's crazy.
And then our second fight of the night on the early prelims, we've got, of course, Bobby Green taking on Jim fucking Miller, as we got to hear John Anik actually give him his love during the weigh-ins yesterday. But here's the thing, man. We got two absolute veterans of the sport. The coolest part of this, I'm sure, unless you're living under a rock and you don't know this will be the third time that Jim Miller has fought on a major card: UFC 100, UFC 200, and UFC 300. That's an incredible feat that tells you how durable this man has been, and he keeps fucking winning fights. Like, Jim Miller is insanely underrated for how good he is.
He has all the records, man. He has like the most fights, the most tied for finish it. Like he's in the top 5 on every record in the UFC.
in the entire UFC, folks, the entire board. That means welterweight, heavyweight. He's right there. Yeah. But he is facing Bobby fucking Green, who honestly is one of the most OG guys in the UFC, never scared of a fight. He went on a bit of a tear in 2023. He won 3, lost his last fight, and is back in full force against this. Now, this for me, I think, is I don't want to say a retirement fight, because I hate to put speculation on Jim Miller. If he does win, it could catapult him to keep going. But I think if he loses, I think this might be, even if he wins, this might be the last time we see Jim Miller in the UFC. And it could, potentially be Bobby Green's last fight, too. Bobby Green has 1 fight left on his contract after this. It's a very intriguing fight in the aspect of what happens next for either of those guys. Now, either of them retire. They don't know the sport anything. We fucking love them, right? They're the OGs. I put them up there with, some of the, the Diaz's of the worlds, the GSPs of the worlds, and people will be like, that's a bold claim, but I'm like, they've been around that long, right? Like, you have to respect, as Cole said, there's not a record that Jim Miller isn't a part of overall rankings in the UFC. So it's an intriguing matchup. Cole, who are you going with?
Oh, man. I don't know. I love Bobby Green. I love Jim Miller. Man, I just hope they have a really good fight. I don't know. I can't pick on this one.
So this is a tough one. It's a doozy. I'm kind of starting to lean towards Bobby Green. And the only reason why I've been leaning towards Bobby Green, I just think Jim has struggled in his last few fights with punching, like basically counter-punching. And Bobby Green is like, he's up there with the Diaz's, and that's why I brought that name up there. He's very good at, even at his age, picking apart guys who don't like getting touched.
I could see him going and doing a boxing match versus Nate Diaz after this, after he leaves the
1,000%.
Yeah.
Like, obviously we know Nate's going to fight Jorge Masvidal and their boxing thing, and their whole thing is started on that, and that's we can get into that at another time. But I could see Bobby Green making that transition.
And he's got the boxing style, Philly shell.
He Philly sells everything, which is incredible. Another great fight in the women's strawweight division. This could be another one of those number 1 contender title fights. We got Jessica Andrade taking on Marina Rodriguez. Marina Rodriguez actually has a win against the co-main event, one of them, and we'll get into that after. And of course, Jessica Andrade is a former champion herself. Beating the likes of Rose Namajunas, Weili Zhang herself. She's got some names under her belt. Jessica Andrade, to me, has looked better and better and better since she's made the weight jump up into this division. I think she's a problem. I think she's a real big problem. Her wrestling is very well rounded. She's got very heavy hands. She's got a 25-12 record, and again, 20 of those finishes are by way of knockout. So she's got heavy hands, and she's scary in there. But Marina Rodriguez is no slouch. Like I said, wins over our co-main event, and we'll get into that later on. 17-3-2 overall record for her. She has been absolutely amazing so far in her young career. Cole, if you were a betting man, and we'll get into the odds in a bit, but if you were a betting man, who are you rolling with?
I think I'm going Marina. I think if Andrade can get her down and getting close, but I think her stand-up's just too good. Her distance, her range is very good, and I think she's going to just keep it on the feet, pick her apart. I think Marina's going to take it.
And I would say the only slight on Jessica Andrade sometimes is that she can get too busy. And when she gets too busy, we've seen, Rose with that incredible knockout over her. Michelle Esparza as well. Carlos Esparza, sorry. She just struggles sometimes to be too busy, and I feel like she gets flustered quickly. And Marina's the type that will calculate that and go at her that way. And I think it's bad news for Jessica in that aspect. Again, I'm not going to say Jessica Andrade is not going to win this fight because, again, I think it's one of those fights where I'm looking at the betting odds right now. It's a pick 'em.
Yeah.
It's -110, -115. So even the bettors in Vegas have no idea how this fight's going to wind up. So really looking forward to this one. Okay, let's get to the last early fight prelim, which is crazy that this is, again, still a prelim card, but Jalen Turner will be taking on Renato Moicano, who is, as badass as they come lately. He's been on a tear. Same with Jalen Turner. They both have knockout power. The other, Renato has this. He's very well rounded. Like, he'll take you down.
A lot of submission.
He's very good submission-wise, but his hands are also quite elusive, and he throws this, roundhouse kick that sometimes you don't see coming. Like, that spinning kick that, sometimes when you're focused on that wrestling, you don't see coming. So, that could be a problem for Jalen Turner, but Jalen Turner, again, has lightning-quick hands. Cole, your expertise, buddy.
I'm going to go Moicano, but Turner, I think, could win early.
Yeah.
But I think Moicano's going to get it.
I'm going to roll with you on this one, too. I think this is one of those ones where we have to agree with. I think Moicano has just been riding this momentum train. He's been calling out everybody in the division, which has been awesome. His post-fight press conferences, and even in post-fight fight interviews with Joe Rogan, are some of the most entertaining things you've ever seen. I expect another one from him. Jalen Turner is intriguing in the aspect of he's very lanky. Like, he's very lengthy. He is. He's very lanky in his division, right? And I feel like a lot of guys that try to fight Jalen Turner, do a lot to try to take him down because he's got such a unique frame. Like, if you take him down and you go on top mount and you're shorter, you usually have the advantage there. You don't want to necessarily getting into a striking battle with Jalen Turner because of his length, being able to put you at a distance. And, the thing with Renato is that he's so capable of going forward. He's a pusher when it comes to that. So it's a very interesting matchup. I think we're both rolling Moicano on this one, which is, a great way to end this segment. We got a very special guest that's going to be joining us in just a quick second here. And we're going to introduce him fairly quickly here. But again, if you guys want to come down and watch the action tonight, UFC 300 taking place at the Saskatoon Brewhouse. Again, one of the most accommodating people we've ever dealt with is the manager here. Sandy has been great. And yeah, we're at the Hampton one. In case I've had that, a lot of people be like, Saskatoon, which location? Hampton is where we're at. We have the entire upstairs booked for our private party, which, good news, has sold out for us, which was amazing. And then we've got, we've got some Sandman boxing system gear that will be available for retail. We also have some giveaways with them, which we'll get into in a bit here. Of course, Rest Went Dead is bringing some stuff. And these gentlemen, they have been sitting patiently at this table. We're going to bring them in right now. Ladies and gentlemen, we want to introduce you to the owner of FKN. Of course, I'm talking about Mr. Kirk Ferkness. Come on in, Kirk. Very excited to have you. Can we get little clap, little love clap? There we go. You betcha, Kirk. We appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. Absolutely. As anybody wants to know how airports are, this man had a first-hand experience of how great sleeping on a bench is.
Love it. Yeah, I love sleeping on an airport bench. It refreshes you.
So how many hours did you have to go on the bench?
Oh, I only slept on it for 8 hours. That's all.
So
my back feels great.
There is no, no spinal damage. He's okay. He's here in the flesh. Yeah. We're very happy that you're here. And
Thanks for having me.
Obviously there's a lot of travel. You flew all the way from Kamloops, is that correct?
Yeah, I flew from Vancouver, Kamloops, then through Saskatoon, and here we are.
Jeez, that's called commitment.
Oh yeah.
I got in my car at 9 o'clock this morning. I said, "What are we doing?" So
you're sleeping in your car.
Oh, I wanted to. Yeah. Today I especially wanted to. But
the airport.
Kind of some of the stuff I wanted to get into, and I'm glad you're finally here. We've finally got to meet. We've had this great partnership for the last 2 seasons.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I get from everybody is, how the hell did FKN start?
Well, because everyone always said, my buddies and me were sitting in my house, and they always say, get me a fucking beer. Everyone says, go get me a fucking beer, right? And I thought, why doesn't someone just make a fucking beer?
Yeah.
And so I looked it up, and no one had. So I realized right away, you can't put fucking on a can because they're going to stop you, right?
Right.
So my name is Kirk Furnace, so we call it Furnace Kirk Enterprises with an N. So it's an acronym. They can't shut you down.
Right.
It doesn't mean fucking. It only means what you think it means.
Right.
So it's not a word.
Absolutely. No, and it's funny because a lot of people, again, in Saskatchewan, we've started pumping out a lot of product. Yeah. And the podcast has been great that way, getting people introduced to it as well.
Totally.
Which has been great. And again, kind of alluded to it, but when you were sitting there, you had to know you had a gold mine in the name.
Oh, totally. I mean, we both just went, oh fuck, we got to grab this name, right? So we trademarked it right away, and we grabbed the copyright and everything, But then the reality sinks in is you have to actually make a fucking beer. And then you got to sell a fucking,
right.
Making it's the easy part.
Right.
You got to go out there and actually get to a retailer and sell this thing.
Right.
So fucking beer doesn't just sell itself. You'd think it would, but
Right. I mean, I love the name.
yeah, everyone loves the name.
Personally don't hate the name. But you brought up a great point there. It's like getting the name out there, distributing, marketing, all that other kind of stuff. Like in today's world, especially being like an independent beer company without the backing of a big name, how hard is it to get into these markets?
It's super hard because there's a million beers out there. I mean, you look around this place. We're at the Canadian Brewhouse in West Saskatoon here. I mean, there's 45 fucking beers on the wall. How do you differentiate your product from everyone else, right? And so the only way we can do it is by having the world's funnest fucking beer.
Right.
So you got to have fun when you buy a product. You want it to be a lifestyle product. You want people to buy it. You know, those dads, they're out there cutting their lawn with their New Balance fucking shoes on, right? You want to get to that dad, right? So this is the way that we do it. We just make it so fun that they can't say no.
Right.
They can't say no. So, you know, when they meet us at the trade shows and beer shows, they love the product. Right. The hard part is the hump is getting it into the retail stores and getting it to the public at large. So that's where we're just we're in there every day slugging.
Yeah. And speaking of, they were slugging it out earlier today. You guys were at the Metro store in Saskatoon?
Metro Liquor in the East Saskatoon. It's all merged into one now. Saskatoon's so big now.
It's a big ass place. I haven't been here in a while, and I had to use my GPS. I'm not proud of that. I used to live here, and I had to use my GPS. I was like, where the hell am I going again? So
you can always tell a city got big when it got a circle drive finally.
So true.
And it's actually a full circle now.
Yeah. Before they had a quarter of a circle.
Yeah.
Now it's actually a circle.
Yeah. We had a half moon actually. Thank you for showing up on Half Moon Drive. Now, of course, with that, you get into marketing. We talk a little bit about how you get your product in there. Like, how do you prepare for the future of FKN?
A lot of money.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest.
Yep.
Everything in the world, you just got to fucking throw money at stuff. But you got to start the pyramid with the idea first.
Right.
The base has to be there or you're fruitless. It's fruitless.
Right.
So we have the best fucking beer out there. We have the funnest fucking beer. Now we got to just amp that up and use capital to get it out to the public through advertising and through people trying it, just trying the beer.
Right. And so if people don't know, of course, FKN has right now 2 products under their belt. Yeah. Is there going to be a third? Are you working on a third? Or are we just rolling with 2 right now?
That's a secret. I can't, that's trade secrets. I can't.
I tried.
Yeah. We were going to go for fucking Radler, eh?
Okay.
Like, doesn't that sound cool? Like fucking rad.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
But, we thought that would fit right in. But Radlers, there's a lot of Radlers out there. So what do we do? So we got to come up with something that nobody else has, right? That's our trick for us, is to come up with something that Pilsner isn't going to come along with next week and fucking stomp on us.
Right.
So that's a big thing for us.
Like having a uniquely different name in a product.
Yeah. with the world's only can that you can sign, right? Like we've trademarked that. So we've got it. The trademark itself is crazy with this is Blank's fucking beer.
Yeah, and it's funny because at Country Thunder this year, I took some out with me, and I actually showed some of the people out there, like, hey, check out this, like, beer. First and foremost, we're like, oh, yeah, no one's saying no to beer at Country Thunder. I'm just saying it out there. But when you put the name out there and you say, hey, like, you can mark your own can, I think that was one of the biggest, like, holy shit, this is a cool beer product for everybody.
Yeah, it's an eye-opener, and then they go, why didn't someone do that before? And then you go, no one did.
No.
So that's why we trademark.
It's genius marketing on your behalf.
It's crazy.
So Radler. Let's think of
fucking rad.
It's
fucking rad.
It's a lot of merch. Man, you're a merch man, and I love it.
We're animals for this shit, man.
Absolutely. Now, you guys do have a website, so if people did want to get some merch, how can they find you, man?
Yeah, you got to go to www.fuckingbeer.com or .ca if you're Canadian, and just go and check it out. There's lots of laughs. Take it to a birthday party. Like I say, you're done. You're gonna elicit a lot of laughs with these products, and people love it. It's super cool in the aspect of we have a great partnership with these guys. You can actually get Boomtown sweaters through their website as well. Yeah, I totally forgot. We have the custom Boomtown fucking hoodies on our site. Oh, I can say fucking on here. Yeah, okay. We have 75 times so far. me and Gary were just saying every third furnace fuck, because when you sell fucking beer, what else? It's like it just rolls off your tongue, right? So it's like you're fucking. So the fucking Boomtown hoodies are amazing. The designs they're one of a kind. So go to our site, check them out, and you'll love them. And shout out to one of our winners of one of those, Austin Bansley, who got his, and he wears it everywhere. He loves it. I mean, the people's comments on it too are like, that is one of the coolest sweaters, because not only do we have our Boomtown logo on the back, on the front, we have it on the back as well, and on the sleeves. Again, you want to get into promotion and stuff like that? Abso-fucking-lutely on the side of the sweater. So
It's amazing, man. We can't thank you so much. Like, honestly, our biggest thing for us was how do we give back, and we knew that UFC 300 was coming up. We wanted to have our podcast sponsors people here. We have Gary behind the scenes who's doing a lot of help for us as well. Shout out to Gary. Small clap for Gary. We love Gary.
Gary's doing a great job.
Absolutely. And he kind of set this partnership up with us. So it's been a great partnership so far, and honestly, man, we can't thank you enough. How can people just generally find you on any kind of platform of social media, man?
Well, we're definitely like www.fknbeer.ca, and also we have the Shopify site too. So if you want a gift for your guy or even your girl, we got female stuff on there, the nice branded stuff for women, and just ask your retailer for the product. That's the biggest help that anyone can do for us. Bug your retailer, because that's the hard part for us.
Yeah,
I got ideas coming, all over the place, but to get that retailer to pull that product in is the hard part. And if any retailers are listening, we'll do anything for you, literally anything. So we'll come to your store. We'll hawk the booth.
I've seen it.
We'll do it. So that's what we're all about. We want it. It's the world's funnest beer for a fucking reason.
Yeah. No. And again, man, honestly, when Gary approached us with the product, and I looked at the can, and of course, just so conveniently, the Boomtown Pod and the FKN Booms, we couldn't be any more excited about the partnership, man. And tonight's going to be a fun night, and I think the community's they're going to soak you up. I think I got a feeling some stories will be told tomorrow morning about the guy from FKN.
The MMA people are our beer people. That's who we're going after. That's why we created this partnership. We both recognize that. Yeah. And it's good times, and it's safe good times. Don't fucking drink and drive. Nobody drink and drive. Please don't. I beg you.
Please don't. There's Ubers, there's cabs, and if you're coming down here tonight, if I see you drinking and driving, if we both see you drinking and driving,
no, don't.
I got a boxer. I got a pro boxer over here. Yeah, that'll be it. But Kirk, man, honestly, thank you so much for joining us, man.
Thank you so
much.
And
of course, if you're coming down tonight, you're gonna meet Kirk. We're gonna have a ton of fun, and
come say hi.
The drinks will be flowing.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's have some fun tonight.
Super.
Kirk, thank you so much for joining us again, man.
Guys.
Ladies and gentlemen, Kirk, the owner of FKN. It is incredibly exciting. That's right, Brewhouse giving us some love behind the scenes. Thank you guys for tuning in as well. This is the first time that we've been able to do this, right? So very, very cool in that aspect. All right, let's get into the rest of the card. Now, this is where we wanted to talk about some of the major fights that are coming on here. Kicking off the early prelims at 6 p.m. For those that are going to be joining us, 6 p.m. is when you want to be with us. Diego Lopez taking on Sadiq Youssef. Very unique fight. Very much enjoy this matchup. It was one of those fights that the fans actually requested to make. Diego Lopez has been on a murderer's row of finishing fights lately, and a young up-and-coming prospect, and Sadiq Youssef as well, whose only losses are against guys in the top 10. So this is a very intriguing matchup to kick things off. Cole, how do we see this playing out?
I think I'm gonna go with Lopez. I think for me he has the edge. He's got a lot of finishes, and he's been knocking people out lately. I like him.
Yeah, Diego Lopez is as badass as they come, and it was kind of funny because you guys, the fans, were the ones who got him on this card. So they were pushing for more fights to be announced, and Diego Lopez was trending. He was literally trending in UFC 300 Twitter, and Dana was like, I can't avoid this. I have to make this matchup. So I think Diego Lopez is going to come in there and keep continuing to show people he's the real deal. It's nothing against Sadiq Youssef, who's very good in his own right, who's only lost against, again, Edson Barbosa in the top 15, top 10 in the world in that division. So there's lots of good potential sparks in this fight, and it's a great way to kick off the prelims. We get into our second prelim. This might be one of the most intriguing matchups in women's UFC history. If you can recall, we go back 10 years, Kate. You and I were working at a location together, and I remember sitting there, and I thought to myself, there's no way this girl's nicknamed the Preacher's Daughter is going to beat Ronda Rousey, right? There's no way. Well, here we are 10 years later. Holly is still kicking ass and taking names. Of course, Holly Holm is who we're speaking of. She's going to be welcoming probably one of the biggest prospects, or free agents, not prospects, one of the biggest free agents of all time, and one of the biggest signings I think Dana's ever made into the women's bantamweight division. That is Kayla Harrison, the former PFL women's champion. So this two-time gold medalist, yes, thank you. Let's not disrespect Kayla Harrison. This fight, fireworks. I have been going back and forth in my head, Cole. How do you see this one playing out? Because I don't even know.
Yeah, I think it's a huge step up in competition for sure. And Holly has all the tools to kind of silence the hype, So, but I do think Harrison's gonna come in and do her thing, but I don't know. It's a tough one.
I'm super worried about the weight cut. If I'm going to be real with you, again, Kayla has fought at 145 and 155 for most of her career. She's making her debut in the UFC at 135. I watched the weigh-ins yesterday. Obviously, I watched the. She looked a little more full after the weigh-ins were done. She looked like she was a lot more less ghostly, if you will.
Yeah.
It scared me because that's a lot of weight. That's a lot of weight. And I had a really good conversation with Chris Cyborg at the most recent Palace Athenas event, and we talked about this because they obviously have their bit of a rivalry going on. And one of the things Cyborg really alluded to was she's cutting 30 pounds. And as somebody who has done that, I took her word for it how that cut must be. And if you've ever had to watch, like UFC Embedded, you got to watch Cyborg's cut and how nasty it was for her to get to 135. And I just remember watching her be so depleted, and I was worried. And I'm genuinely worried for Kayla Harrison because Holly Holm is as real as they get. Holly Holm can strategically do everything. She is a national, 18-time Golden Glove boxer. That's crazy. That's insane. Her kicks, obviously, we're very well aware of. She's a very well-rounded kickboxer. But I think there's something about Kayla Harrison where if she takes Holly Holm down, I think it's going to be a quick night. I really do. I think Kayla has to shoot early and not shoot often. Don't shoot often. Be strategic because we saw Ronda try that, right? When stand-up wasn't working for Ronda, she tried to shoot quick on Holly. That doesn't work. And I bring Cyborg up for the point of she worked with Holly Holm in this camp. So she brought in a familiar figure who knows what Kayla Harrison's about, which I think could play dividends very well for Holly Holm. It'll be interesting to see what happens there. But I think, again, it's one of those fights where, again, I'm looking at the betting odds, and it's not like it's a drastically huge difference between the two of them. This is a huge challenge for Kayla Harrison. This is competition that she hasn't had the likes of in PFL. I wish, and this sounds crazy, even if she would have stayed in PFL, I think she would have got a red-hot Dakota Dacheva. And that would have been a very interesting matchup to make between the two of them. I'm interested to see what happens with PFL and their women's division as they continue to blossom and grow. It's not a shot at them at all, but the best women in the world are all in the UFC right now. And I think I agree with Kayla Harrison if this, goes longer than a round. And again, we got to be careful because Holly Holm has a lot of power and she likes to come out quick.
Yeah.
So I think if it goes 2-ish rounds, I'm going to favor Kayla because I think that's when the takedowns will become way easier. And Holly's very tall.
Yeah.
And Kayla's a little shorter. So, again, interesting matchup. No disrespect to Kayla Harrison. No disrespect to Holly Holm. This is a fighter's fight.
Good fight.
It's one of those matchups that doesn't happen very often, especially when you're making your debut. Because usually, I'm not saying this to be rude, usually if you're making your debut in the UFC, it's against a lesser opponent. I say that kindly. Like Michael Chandler when he made his debut against Dan Hooker. I mean, we all know Michael Chandler's resume. He's coming from a different organization. He knocks Dan Hooker out clean. It's kind of what was expected. So this is a huge money fight. Again, this is the early prelims we're talking about. Insanity. And then we move up into the featherweight division. This fight is amazing. Calvin Kattar taking on Aljo's debut at featherweight, where he's looking big, he's looking healthy, he's looking full, which means he might try to backpack Calvin Kattar the whole time. How do you think this fight plays out?
Yeah, I'm thinking Sterling will get a decision. I think he'll try and take it to the ground. I don't think he'll stand up with him. So I think Sterling decision.
Yeah, I'm tending to agree with you. I think it's a pretty easy decision for me. I think if you've seen him at 135 and what he was able to do in that division, obviously struggled against Sean O'Malley. Apparently it was a nasty weight cut and some injuries. That's what every guy's going to tell you. But he did look depleted. And looking at him in the even just in the pre-fight conference, even during the weight cut, I was like, Aljo's big. Like, this is where he belongs,
It just takes one bad weight cut to be like, I should move up.
Yeah, 1,000%. And again, you want to talk about guys who you get a rude introduction to, another, edition that's featherweight stuff. There's a lot of good featherweights in this world. And Calvin Kattar is one of them. He's been gone for 18 months. If you guys don't know Calvin Kattar, go watch his fight against Max Holloway. That might be one of the best fights I've ever seen in my entire life.
Not for Calvin Kattar.
No, he got punched a lot. A record-setting 438 punches were landed on his body, which is absolutely insane. So it's an intriguing matchup because Calvin can throw hands. And he wasn't scared to try to test Max Holloway, who, again, never been finished. Took him to the deep waters. Max even said he hits hard. I was very impressed by, his endurance, first and foremost, his stamina, and his ability to take my shots. Because when Max Holloway hits you, Max Holloway hits you. He punches and bunches, and it's a lot. He's kind of like the evolution of the Diaz brothers. He used to throw that high, intense cardio, and a lot of those, small jabs, the Stockton slaps. It's kind of what, kind of makes Max Holloway Max Holloway.
Death by 1,000 punches.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to see him throw, again, 1,000 punches, and he might land 438 of them. You never know, which would be 43.8% for those watching at home. Quick math. Insanity that this is one of those early prelim cards. And then, of course, this, to me, I thought could be on the main event card. This could be a main event any day of the week. We're moving into the light heavyweight division. We got Jiri Prochazka taking on Alexander Rakic. This fight has been pretty much penciled in on most people's fight radar for quite some time. Rakic coming back from injury. Jiri Prochazka coming back from injury. We saw Jiri in his last fight be okay. It wasn't Jiri that we're used to. Same with Rakic. I think now that these guys have both had full camps, both had some time off, have recovered from those injuries, we're going to see an absolute slugfest, and this is a number one title fight, or contender fight for the light heavyweight division in my eyes. Cole?
Yeah, I agree. It's a good one. It's crazy that it's on the prelims. It's crazy. I'm rooting for Jiri, but it's a good one. Yeah, I like Jiri.
Yeah, I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm probably rolling with Jiri as well. I think one of the craziest things about Jiri is that you never know what he's throwing, and I think Rakic doesn't. You can try to emulate somebody's style like that. Rakic being primarily a pretty heavy kickboxer, this is going to be a really intriguing matchup because Jiri at times has struggled with defending the punch, because he keeps his hands down so damn low because he lows very awkwardly. Like if you ever watch a Jiri fight, he is of course the former light heavyweight champion. There's nothing to take away from him. Lost or had to give up his belt because of injury and that shoulder injury, which back in the day, we weren't even sure if he was going to come back from. So this is a huge fight for him. It's a huge fight for Rakic. Again, both guys being healthy. We're getting the best of the best, which is what I want, and I'm so excited for this. And again, I am going to roll out Jiri in this. I think that's kind of where I'm leaning. And this is cool. Just for those of you guys that are watching us live, we are at the Saskatoon Brewhouse, the Hampton location in the west side of the city. Make sure to come see us. I cannot wait to see you guys. We're expecting 500 to 600 people. They're opening up the rooftop as well. The balcony is going to be open for us. We've got merch with Sandman Boxing System, FKN, Rest Dad. We have so much to give away tonight. It's insane. The reason why I'm kind of giving these breakdowns in this fight, and we wanted to give this to you guys, is because tonight we actually have the exclusive access to using FightPredictor.com, which is really, really cool. It's an application where you can, while you're watching the fights, you can pick who you think is going to win, how they're going to win. Significant strikes could play out as a big point total, but it's a point-based system, and when everybody's here, it'll be way easier to explain it, but basically, you pick the fight, who you think is going to win it, how they're going to win it, and you could go home with a very cool prize. It's a one of a one, and we will show it for you guys right now. Cole, if you don't mind holding the mic. And let's tell people what's on the shirt here, all right?
All right, UFC 300 live at the Brewhouse with Boomtown and Sandman.
If you guys see that.
Right there. One of a kind. Come win it.
Such a unique shirt. And of course we have to thank Cole and his amazing wife Demi for getting this all organized up and their brand new business.
Sandstar Graphics. If you need anything done, come check us out.
Sandstar Graphics. Follow them today immediately. Thank you so much again to you guys for doing something so unique like that. It's again I
all Demi.
I literally texted Cole. I said, I think it'd be really cool to have like a one-of-one shirt where we could give it away to somebody who will be joining us tonight And again, fightpredictor.com is the app that we're going to be using. So when you guys come in here, we'll have an exclusive code for you to log into the room. And then, again, it's just picking who you think is going to win. It keeps you entertained, and that's what it's about. We want to have the best experience for you guys on this. And, again, this card, top to bottom, at 4 o'clock, you guys can join us. We're going to have the early prelims on. We're going to be ready to go. Super excited for this. So with that being said, we're going to quickly go into the main card, which is one of the most ridiculous cards I've ever seen in my life. Of course, kicking off the card is going to be NCAA wrestler, turned pro, absolutely dominating on the scene at 5-0 right now. Bo Nickel, the biggest favorite in the entire card at minus 2,500. 2,500. That's insanity. Taking on Cody Brundage. Is that a disrespectful line to Cody Brundage, who is 10-5?
I don't think it's so disrespectful. I think it's just like very. We've just never seen Bo Nickel not dominate.
Yeah.
He's just been like a dominant presence, and I think it's just like a testament to his dominance, more over than disrespectful.
Yeah, I put him on the list of like guys who are, I like to say in the UFC, they've got futures, right? Like Khamzat, he's kind of the future.
Yeah.
And obviously he's going to be taking on Robert Whittaker, which is a great matchup for a fight night. You got your up-and-comers, and again, I remember the McGregor aura, right? Like McGregor comes in, beats Dennis Seaver, beats a very early Dustin Poirier, and we're like, okay, maybe this kid's for real. And I think after Bo Nickel's last fight, I think we can say he's for real. Very impressive fashion. He's got heavy hands. His wrestling is world known. And he's 5-0 for a reason. I think there's going to be some problems for Cody Brundage. Brundage has, out of his 10 wins, 8 of them are by knockout, so he's got heavy hands himself. And that's, again, I think if you go into a fight and you're a minus 2,500 underdog, it's just like, the world doesn't believe in me. And that's usually when a fighter's pretty fucking dangerous. So do you think Cody can finish this fight?
Definitely. I think he definitely can. Obviously, the pressure is on Bo.
Yeah.
So, but I do think Bo Nickel's gonna stay dominant.
You heard it here first. We're both agreeing. He's going to stay. It's going to be for real. We're really, really excited about that fight. And then, of course, we move up. And this is insanity. Maybe the GOAT of the lightweight division, Charles Oliveira, who was on this just incredible streak. If you are watching at home right now, Google Charles Oliveira's record and the people that he has fought. Cole, can you name 12 of the people that he beat?
All right. Kevin Lee, Tony, Michael Chandler, Poirier. He ended Baryusha's streak, and then he lost to Islam. That's pretty good.
6-12. That was pretty damn good. That was pretty damn good. 12 fights in a row was the streak that he was on before he lost, of course. Gaethje's on that murderer's row. That is 7 of those names that you just mentioned are all in the top 10.
Yeah.
Charles Oliveira's beat him.
Yeah.
He's that damn good. So, I mean, Charles Oliveira is going into this fight against Armin Tiscarin, who is a monster in his own right. Of course, 21-3 walking into this, taking on Charles Oliveira at 34-9. Right now, Oliveira is the betting underdog. So we've got Armin as the favorite, minus 250 plus 310. Disrespectful to the former champion, or is Armin that damn good?
I mean, I think he is that good. And yeah, I think it is a little bit disrespectful.
310? Like, again, these are just the most recent betting odds as they pop up on my phone, right? We're going off by what's being here. I mean, at 310, I might throw some money on Charles Oliveira.
I'm going Charles. Yeah.
I mean, FightPredictor.com is going to have me picking Charles Oliveira, probably by way of submission in the second round, because that seems what happens to most guys. Here's the thing with Charles Oliveira. He gets knocked out for sure in the first round a lot. That fight against Michael Chandler, that fight against Justin Gaethje, he got tested, chin-checked, both of those fights, and in the second round, immediately made them their bitch.
Comes back with those straight punches.
And he's awkward.
He catches you.
And it's like this weird, like when you watch his foot move, it's like a robot. Because you're just, like, remember when you had that game, the robot game where you press the button and they just straight jab the whole time? That's what it reminds me of. Like,
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
and Charles Oliveira is nuts. Like, I mean, again, I think the disrespect at 310 is a little high, especially because
And he's nuts for wearing that tux that he wore. That's ridiculous.
Cody Garbrandt shirt was up there as well. That thing was sparkling, and I was like, boy, these two. And then, of course, we get into the first title fight of the night. Of course, this is for the BMF belt, and it is going to be handed to the winner by Mark Coleman. If anybody is unaware of what's been going on in Mark Coleman's life, crazy. His parents were in a house fire. He saved his parents from the said house fire, almost died from basically his smoke inhalation. He was in coma for like 2 days, and his family was getting ready to say goodbye to Mark. This guy pulls out of it. Like, I'm like, this is insanity. So if anybody were to ever put a belt on a guy for being the baddest motherfucker, as we call this title, it is Mark Coleman. So shout out, Mark. Congratulations on getting through, pulling through. I'm sure, like, you know, you see the video of his family at his bedside. That rocked me, man. I was just like, that is maybe one of the most incredible things I've ever seen. You know, you're expecting your dad to pass away, and here he is. He's like, nope, not ready yet. So he's going to be, you know, like Dana said at the press conference, I'm flying him in. He's going to be giving the belt away, and it's cool. But, of course, those two competitors that are in this said, you know, battle, Justin Gaethje, the current champion, taking on Max Holloway, who we've talked to about, you know, kind of talked to him a little bit about it. This, for me, I have no fucking clue. Gaethje has so much power. Holloway has so much stamina. Holloway's never been put away. Gaethje puts people away. So this is one of those matchups. It's like, does Gaethje's cardio, which sometimes has not been in his corner, able to compete against the likes of Max Holloway and the tremendous punches and bunches, as you said, the 1,000-strike combination that you can get hit with? Man, I'm going to go to your opinion first because I'm split.
Yeah, I just keep... Anytime I think about this fight, I just think about the Poirier-Holloway fight. And I cannot get that out of my head. So it's just hard for me to see Max winning because of that fight.
Yeah. That's a great way to put it, actually. You know, because that was like the first time we saw Holloway really get tested. You know, where it was like, oh, he might be rocked. But
and it wasn't like it was a better fighter. It was just Max's punches didn't do anything to Dustin. And every time Dustin hit Max, it hurt him.
yeah.
And like that was it. If they were the same size, or it would have been another good Max fight. But just like the power and size difference was so noticeable.
Yeah.
But also it was on short notice,
True.
which is a huge factor. He
True.
could have just been depleted, not training properly at the time, which is definitely a possibility. But it's just hard for me to unsee that fight
Yeah.
going into this fight.
I agree with you, and that's, again, one of those things that go back and forth in my mind about who I want to pick in this fight. I just think Justin Gaethje hits so hard, and I think Max is going to get chin checked pretty hard in this, probably in the first 30 seconds of the fight, because we know Gaethje likes to come out, and you saw it against Michael Chandler, too. Chandler's chin has been tested, you know, got knocked out by Oliveira, and the first thing that, you know, Gaethje did was target that chin. Like, he's like, let's fucking go, because I know I can finish you, which may be one of the greatest fights in UFC history, Chandler and Gaethje. Probably one of my favorites of all time. I mean, that was such a fucking war. But, of course, I'm gonna roll with Gaethje. And it's not a shot to Max. I think Max has done absolutely everything you probably do in the UFC. He is getting older. He hasn't been checked for a while. I think he's never faced the power of Justin Gaethje. And like I said, when I go back to that fight against Poirier, too, I'm like, something just didn't surprise me. Like, I thought Holloway would be a lot sharper against Dustin, because Dustin keeps his hands relatively low, you know, especially when he seems to pull up his shorts 75 times a fight and go like this. I just thought one of those times Max is going to connect. I just was timid. It almost seems like he was timid. So I'm going to roll with you on that one. I think we're going to go exclusively Justin Gaethje. We're going to post our picks for you guys as well. We do it every time there's a big card. We've kind of been behind on that one. But in 2023, we'll go by the 2023 record. We went 55-7. So we've done pretty well on picking who's going to win fights. So we're going to try to continue that in 2024. This will be our first round of who we think is going to win. Watch our socials. We'll post that on there. of course, our co-main event of the evening. We're gonna get into this really quickly. The women's strawweight division, man. It's been a weird one. It seems like one event there's a new champion in the last like 4 of them, because we went from Rose to Wiley to Rose to Espraza, who was in there, and now we're back with Wiley. So the title hasn't stayed long in this division for very long, and no one's really held it consecutively, it seems. But Wiley Zhang is as game as they come, and she is as strong as they come. She's an ox in that division, and she's taking on a former countryman as well, in Jan Exanen. This could be a great fight. I think Wiley Zhang is going to pull this off. I think it's going to probably be about the second round, third round, via head kick. I can see Wiley throwing that. She does like to throw that head kick every now and again, and I think it's going to catch her countryman in a weird way.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a really big fight. I think Wiley's gonna win. I think it's such a good fight. What is the odds?
So if we go into the most recent odds, I'm just going to pull this up here for you guys. Try to go on the UFC website because they typically do it. The most recent, that's not going to do it. I will pull that up. But while we're doing that, again, we're at the Saskatoon Brewhouse. We're going to be here all evening. Cannot wait, guys. We're on the Hampton location. We've got FKN in the building. We've got Rest When Dead in the building. We've got everybody, Sandman Boxing System. And, of course, this is kind of like a launch for us. In the aspect of, like, we've never done anything like this. We've done events, don't get me wrong, we've done events, but we've never been able to do something where we're together, where we're able to have our sponsors with us and have such a unique experience, if you will. Okay, so what I'm seeing is Wiley Zhang at minus 250. So she's a favorite by not much, but enough to considerably say, okay, at minus 250, I'm okay with taking her as the winner. I think, again, that she gets this done. Are you okay with minus 250?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's pretty even fight. So I think, and I would give Wiley the edge. So
okay,
I'm for it.
Okay, perfect. So we're gonna lock that in, minus 250. If you're in the building, fightpredictor.com. I'm gonna go second round TKO.
I'm in.
I like that. And then, of course, we'll get into our main event. And, again, before we do so, you guys can come check us out. The early prelims are going to be on in about half an hour's time here. We're just going to finish this, and we're going to set up for that upstairs for our private viewing with our guests. We cannot wait. We have about 60 people that are going to be up there joining us for that. And then, of course, the prelims themselves start at 6, main card at 8. So if you're going to be here later on, that is fine, too. If you want to join us and do the Fight Predictor, we're going to be doing fightpredictor.com with the prelims, not the early prelims, the prelims. So we'll start then at 6 o'clock. So make sure you're joined us here at the Canadian Brewhouse in Saskatoon. We are in the Hampton location. The upstairs is going to be completely booked off for essentially the party. And then they're actually opening up the patio part itself, so the heaters will be running and stuff like that. So if you are coming with a group of friends and you thought, oh, maybe because it's going to be busy as hell, which it will be, there's going to be about 100 spots for you guys to be joining us. And again, throughout the night, Cole and I will be going table to table, introducing ourselves. We're really excited, and we're pumped that we're going to be doing this. And again, we just want to say thank you to the management team at the Brewhouse, because they have been so accommodating. They've worked with us since January, when we had this idea of like, hey, we want to do a launch event for us, our podcast, our sponsors, and just have everybody under one roof for one night. And this is, truly amazing. And if it's always one of those things where it's like, is this the last thing we ever did? I'd love to do that. But it's not. We're honestly, we've been doing this for 4 years, and people have doubted us the entire time, and we continue to come back better than ever every single season. And we're hoping that this is the step for us and our partners to see the community that we're bringing into homes every time we're talking about events. And again, we also want to say thank you before I go into the main event. I also want to say thank you guys for watching and tuning in, as well as streaming. In January, we actually were the #1 rated podcast in Canada when it came to MMA. So that is, something that I can hold true, and for us that put in the work for the last 4 years and the behind the scenes stuff. Again, Demi, being one of our biggest supporters, one of our biggest fans, your family, our families have been so key to this. Tonight's one of those nights where I can't wait to celebrate with them, because as much as we've worked hard on this behind the scenes, they've worked even harder. And it's as easy as liking, it's as easy as sharing, it's as easy as promoting our platforms has been absolutely huge for us. So once again, thank you guys from the bottom of our hearts here at Boomtown. We don't do this without you. It takes a family, man. We talked about it earlier. Being an independent company, it takes a family. So
And huge shout out to Andrew, because most of the time he does everything and I just show up. So huge shout out to you.
And again, you were the one who prompted me to do it, though. You know, like, and I thank you every day for that. You're a very motivational person. If you met Cole, you understand that. Not only with my weight loss, my bodybuilding stuff. You know, basically this man has basically said, you want to do it, you got the mindset, let's fucking do it. And I remember in COVID era, I was working in radio, and he said to me, messaged me, he's like, dude, why aren't you fucking doing a podcast? You love this sport, it's the only thing that's on, let's talk about it. And he was actually the second guest ever on the podcast. Our first ever was Daryl Relf from a band called Bonds and Mara. Daryl watches everything, so shout out Daryl. Still appreciate you, man. He's in a new band called Robbie Hurricane, still the same group. But yeah, let's get into the main event, man. This is the very last fight of the night. We're going to get into this. This is for the strap, of course, in the light heavyweight division. We've got Alex Pereira, who has killed everybody. This man's a two-time champion, 2 different weight classes, taking on Jamal Hill, the former champ, who had to up his title because of injury. Mm-hmm. He was forced out due to injury. So I think a lot of people understand who Alex Pereira is because of his wars with Izzy, right? Like, we understand that. He came in and had an absolutely dominant performance to win the championship as well in his last fight. The man has hands. We've seen that at UFC Embedded. It was shown that he broke the one and only Francis Ngannou's record on the punching tower. Francis Ngannou punches at 120,000 square per inches is what it's called. Alex just broke that at 191,000. It's fucking insanity. So it's like literally getting hit at 125 miles per hour. That's the power this man possesses in those hands. And you've seen it on display when he knocked out Izzy. But he's facing Jamal Hill, who I don't think is getting a lot of recognition or love, because during his run when he beat Glover finally and won the championship, it was very slept on, and he didn't get the chance to defend. So I think in his mind, he's still the champ, but he's never been able to get the respect out of everybody because he just hasn't been able to show it because he's been on the shelf for a year, which makes a fighter dangerous. When you have nothing to lose, like we kind of talked about it, when you have nothing to lose, you go out there and start throwing, that's when a fighter's the most dangerous. I think Jamal Hill wins this. I've been going back and forth on it all week. I think Jamal Hill has a lot to prove, and I think he's going to do it in a big statement like he usually does. That's kind of Jamal Hill's niche. And Alex Pereira, again, no slouch to him. He weighed in at 205 yesterday. He's already at 232 pounds. I mean, the man can fight at the heavyweight division, and I'm not saying he's going to. I'm just saying he fucking could. And he should. I mean, the man's 6'2", at 280 pounds, which... he's young enough that if he did lose this fight and goes and decides to move up to the heavyweight division, I guarantee Dan is like, hey, do you want to fight for the title? And John Jones versus Alex Pereira could very much be a possibility, you know, if that time or John Jones ever happens again. Again, the only person who could beat John Jones is John Jones. That would be a great matchup. Pereira versus Jones? Nuts. Yeah. 2 kickboxers, worldly strikers, insanity. But let's talk about this one. I get sidetracked. Squirrel. Jamal Hill, I think, has enough power in his hands to get this done. What do you think, Cole?
We were talking about this before. And when we talk about, you know, because we're talking about Yuri versus Glover compared to Hill versus Glover, and how easily Hill beat Glover, and how much difficulty Yuri had. You know, he was a minute and a half away from losing that fight. Submission, he would have lost by decision. And Hill didn't lose a second of that fight. So he's I think very underestimated in this fight. And I think he's gonna bring a lot of trouble. And I think, yeah, I'd give him the favor. I'll give Hill to. I think Hill's gonna take it, but I do think Pereira does have a good chance.
And for the record, don't get me wrong, Alex Pereira is so heavy-handed. And he's so strategic with his punches and his kicks. A lot of the time his stance is weird. Like, he's got that weird orthodox, like his hand kind of curls in a little bit. He kind of fights sideways, if that makes sense. Like, yeah. And anyways, when he throws his leg kicks, there's a ton of power in them too. Ask Izzy's like diaphragm, because he got absolutely winded by one of those knees. And when Pierre's on and he's locked on you, it's kind of like a spider. Like, he just he suffocates. He does, right? Like he pounces. He knows when an opportunity is there, and he strikes. Right? He strikes. That's his thing. Like I mean, he really is realistically is one of the most strategic fighters I've ever seen in my life. But Jamal Hill is a different breed. Jamal Hill's got backyard brawler who can take you down. Who's got pretty slept on wrestling, but his hands are heavy. Like no one, when Glover was on his tear, no one was able to stop Glover. Jamal Hill did, and pretty convincingly. I mean,
even after Glover's tear, no one was able to stop Glover. That's like 43 just destroying top contenders.
Left, right, and center. And I mean, Jamal Hill slept them. And that's why I'm saying, like, I don't think we're giving the respect that Jamal Hill deserves. And again, that's what happens when you're a former champion in wrestling terms. I'll even use like a WWE term. Remember when Finn Balor became the Universal Champion, and the next day he had a separated shoulder and couldn't defend it? That's a legitimate injury. And then everybody since then is like, well, it's Finn Balor, right? Like, and that's not a shot at him, but it's the same thing with Jamal Hill. Like, who's Jamal Hill? Like, how can we figure this out? So I think it's one of those fights that, is going to go, I could see it being a 4 or 5 round fight. I think it's a slugfest. Pierre fights usually go 4 rounds, as we've seen in his UFC career so far, which, again, I think if it goes later, I think it favors Pierre for sure. If I'm Jamal Hill, I want to finish this thing in the first 3 rounds. But yeah, that's kind of our podcast, if you will, in a nutshell. Man, we're so excited for tonight. I got to go eat some like lozenges because we've been talking forever on this. Of course, you guys, we are at the Saskatoon Canadian Brewhouse Hampton location. We are going to have our sponsors here. I have on pretty good word that we have 40 plus things to give away tonight. So if you're not here, you're missing out. I'm telling you, this is where you want to be to watch. I think there's like 75 TVs already on the lower bowl. Early prelims start in exactly 20 minutes, so we can't wait to see you guys there. We're going to have merchandise available through Sandman Boxing System upstairs as well. FKN is setting up as we speak right now upstairs. They've got, Jesus, guys, Kirk said a lot of stuff that he's got to get rid of. Shout out to them. Thank you for jumping on, obviously, with us. It's always cool to hear, your sponsor's perspective on why they do what they do and believing in our brand, right? Like, I mean, we believe in them just as much as they believe in us. And like you said, beer and MMA goes pretty hand in hand. So come enjoy some while you're down here. We're going to have a great evening. The fights, like I said, started in 20 minutes time. We're going to go set up. Thank you guys so much for joining us on the live stream. We hope to do more of these kind of things where we're in the same building. Get to do that. Hopefully have 2 mics this time. It's very odd being the mic guy the whole time. But Cole, where can people find you as always, my friend?
Everywhere. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, everywhere.
Stream them. Sandman Boxing System, okay? Again, thank you so much to all of our sponsors that are going to be here tonight. Get down here. The early prelims, 4 o'clock. Other prelims, 6 o'clock. And, of course, the main card. If you can't get here during the prelims, main card starts at 8. I can't promise there's going to be seating. We were talking to the manager before this. It sounds like there's going to be about 500 people in here. So we are pumped. FightPredictor.com is where we're going to have some of the apps that's going to be providing the entertainment for people that are here as well. And we're giving away that customized shirt. Thank you to
Demi
and
Sunstar Graphics.
Gotta give some love where we get some love, right? We appreciate you guys so much for joining us. Once again, we are the Boomtown Pod. We are your home for all things combat sports. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you tonight. Saskatoon, let's have a couple of drinks together, shall we? Cole, would you like to hit the old end stream on there for us? This is always the fun part of the podcast, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you tonight.